In the ancient Odime forest, where the air is thick with secrets and the trees whisper to each other in languages only spirits understand, a tiny cry pierced the silence. It was not the cry of an animal. It was not the cry of a spirit. It was the cry of a newborn baby, weak, frightened, abandoned. And from the thick bushes, a woman emerged, her wrapper stained with shame, her chest rising and falling with the guilt she refused to feel. Her name was Obianuju. And she had just made the decision that would change the fate of her bloodline forever. In Umuk village, no maiden shone brighter than Obianuju. She was not just beautiful, she was breathtaking. Her skin was smooth like fresh palm oil, her eyes dark like the night river, and her walk could silence a market. Men fought with fists and charms to win her attention. Women envied her, mothers begged her to marry their sons. But Obianuju had no interest in ordinary men. She wanted royalty. "I will never marry a farmer," she once said during a moonlight dance. "My beauty is not for the soil. I was made for the throne." Her voice was like honey, yet it dripped with ambition. So when news broke that Prince Ikemba, the heir to the throne of Amici Kingdom, was seeking a bride, Obianuju swore to the gods, "I will become his queen even if it cost me everything." But behind her flawless smile and graceful steps, Obianuju hid a secret. Months before, during the New Yam festival, Obianuju had sneaked off with Chuka, a poor palm wine tapper's son. The two had danced under the stars, kissed behind the shrine, and shared moments forbidden to the unmarried. It was meant to be just a fling, just a night of wildness. But wild seeds bear wild fruits. 3 moons later, her belly began to swell. Her waist bead snapped, and her figure began to betray her. Panic set in. She couldn't let anyone know, not when she was so close to catching the prince's eye. So she wore tighter wrappers. She swallowed bitter herbs to delay the birth. She avoided moonlight gatherings, claiming sickness. By the time the baby came, Obianuju had already received an invitation to the royal palace for the bridal selection ceremony. She was desperate. There was no time. No one could know. And so, on a rainy night, she wrapped the newborn in a torn piece of cloth, walked deep into Odima forest, and laid the child on a bed of wet leaves. The baby wailed, reaching for the mother who refused to look back. Obianuju wiped her tears, adjusted her wrapper, and walked away like nothing happened. At the palace, Obianuju dazzled. Among dozens of maidens, she stood out like the rising sun. Her beauty was unmatched, her speech graceful, and her cooking even more impressive. Prince Ikemba was smitten. "She is the one," he told his father, King Okori. "Obianuju will be my queen." Preparations for the royal wedding began at once. The villagers danced in excitement. Umuk people paraded their pride. Obianuju's mother, unaware of her daughter's dark secret, sang praises to the gods. But far away in Odime forest, beneath a thick bush, a miracle was unfolding. The baby, who should have died from cold and hunger, was still alive. A blind old herbalist, known as Dibia no Keka, had heard the cries during his herb search. Guided by his spirit sense, he followed the sound and found the baby, shivering and weak. "I hear the ancestors whispering," the old man said. "This child is not ordinary." He took the baby home and raised her as his own. He named her Edeora, meaning daughter of all. And while Obianuju planned her royal wedding, her abandoned daughter was growing under the protection of spirits and the wisdom of an old healer. Obianuju's wedding was the grandest in the land. Drummers beat their skin raw. Dancers twirled like possessed spirits. Cows were slaughtered. Wine flowed like rivers. Obianuju wore red coral beads, a velvet wrapper, and a smile that masked every ounce of guilt. As she stood beside Prince Ikemba, crowned Queen of Amici, she looked into the sky and whispered to herself. It was worth it. Years passed. Obianuju became queen. She lived in luxury. Her palace had maids, gold, and respect. But peace, it eluded her. She couldn't sleep at night. Sometimes she'd hear a baby crying in her dreams. Other times, she'd see a young girl with eyes like hers, standing silently in the corner of her royal chamber. Meanwhile, Edeora grew into a stunning young girl, bold, intelligent, and deeply spiritual. Though raised by a blind herbalist, she learned the ways of the spirits, the secrets of herbs, and the language of animals. One day, a traveling warrior who had been injured stumbled into the herbalist's hut. Edeora healed him with nothing but leaves, chants, and water. He returned to the palace and told the king, "There is a girl in the forest who carries the power of the gods. She speaks like royalty. She heals like a goddess." King Okori grew curious. Prince Ikemba, now older and concerned about the mysterious illness affecting his people, summoned the girl to the palace. When Edeora entered the palace, every jaw dropped. Even Obianuju froze. The girl had her eyes, her smile, her walk. But it couldn't be. Edeora bowed before the royals. "Greetings, Your Highness." Prince Ikemba smiled. "Your voice carries peace. Heal my people, and you shall be rewarded." Edeora smiled and said, "I will do my best." As she left the hall, Queen Obianuju followed her. "Who are your parents?" she asked. "My father is the blind herbalist, Nokeka." "I have no mother," Edeora replied. Obianuju's knees buckled. She had thought the baby had died. She had buried that sin. But here she was, alive, beautiful, and standing inside the very palace she had thrown away her own child to enter. Obianuju became restless. Nightmares plagued her. Adora's presence haunted her every step. One night, unable to hold it in, she went to the forest and begged the gods for forgiveness. But the ancestors were angry. A great storm hit the palace the next day. Lightning struck the roof. The royal healer declared, "There is a sin in this palace that calls for justice." The people panicked. Edeora, sensing danger, consulted the oracle. With permission, she prepared a special drink and gave it to the queen, saying, "This will calm your spirit." But the drink had a truth charm in it. Before the king, council, and chiefs, Obianuju began to confess in tears. I threw my baby into the forest, because I wanted to marry the prince. I abandoned her like trash. I thought she had died. But she's alive. She's right here. Edeora is my daughter." The palace went silent. The king's eyes widened. The chiefs gasped. Even Prince Ikemba stood in shock. Edeora, now trembling, stepped forward. You left me to die." Obianuju fell to the ground, wailing. "Forgive me. I was young, selfish, afraid. But forgiveness doesn't come cheap." The elders gathered to decide Obianuju's fate. "She has shamed the throne," one said. "She abandoned royalty's blood to rot," another added. "But she also raised the child she birthed as queen, unknowingly," one elder said. "Fate has completed the circle." In the end, the people demanded that Obianuju be stripped of her title and banished for 7 years to the very forest she once abandoned her child in. "Let her live among the spirits," the king declared. "Let her feel the pain she once ignored." Edeora watched silently as guards removed her mother's beads and led her away. Obianuju didn't resist. She went into the forest, weeping, barefoot, a shadow of her former self. Edeora was offered the crown, but she declined. "I was not raised for power. I was raised for healing," she said. Instead, she opened a royal healing house, where she treated the sick and taught maidens the power of herbs, wisdom, and virtue. Prince Ikemba, impressed by her courage, offered her a place in the royal family, not as a queen, but as a royal advisor. And so, Edeora became known as the daughter of the forest, respected by kings and feared by liars. She forgave her mother in time, but never forgot the pain. Obianuju returned from exile after 7 years, grey-haired, humbled, and quiet. She lived in a small hut outside the village, where she sold firewood and herbs. People no longer bowed when she walked by. She had lost the throne, but gained wisdom. And sometimes, when Edora visited with gifts and herbs, the villagers would whisper. She threw her newborn in the forest, just to marry the prince. But the forest raised a queen the palace never deserved. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe for more captivating tales, and leave a comment below to share your thoughts. The end.